Amplifiers are kind of my thing. I like sparkly stuff, and I like Naugahyde. And I fell in love with customs when I was like 12, and I always wanted one. And I actually got this one just last week as well. But the first, when I was searching for a custom that I found was, oh man, there's this company Earth that is these ridiculously enormous 215 tube based units. And yeah, so I've been learning little by little about them as I go along. At some point, I'll probably do a whole circuit analysis, circuit comparison between the the super guitar Earth and the Plush P1000S's and the classic twin reverb. They are darn near exactly an AB763. The big difference with them being these auxiliary slave outputs and recording stuff. There's a couple little things and then a couple little tweaks, but at least with this guy from 73, I followed the AB763 schematic through it, and it's nearly identical. But it's not well documented, the company histories overall, and it seems like a lot of it is forum legend, which isn't a bad thing, but the forums are also kind of dying out. So I'm trying to learn what years are out there, everything else, and put stuff together. So at any rate, I got both of these from Atomic Music in Beltsville, Maryland last week. Super nice guys, super cool shop with a ton of vintage stuff if you're into that. But both of these plushes are from 1969, from a couple component, from the potentiometer codes. I can pretty well tell that they are. And this one on the right actually has a quality mark from October 27th of 69. So pretty cool, pretty definitive there. Interestingly enough, the amp company Fuchs, Fuchs, I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that. So Andy Fuchs owns the Plush name now. So at least from some forum posts I've seen, apparently they'll make you a brand new one, which is kind of neat. But this one of the two seems to be more nicely made. My understanding is it was the same shop. I don't know what it was called when these were built. The Earths, it was ISC Audio, and maybe even leftover materials from after Plush had gone under or something. The legend is a little bit lost, I think. But these were built with eyelet boards. They're pretty tidy. They vary a lot from unit to unit, it seems. I would love to see if somebody has one that's not from 69. These may or may not have been just a one run, the P1000S's. I have no idea. But this one is tidy overall. This one didn't power on when I first got it, which turned out to be an easy broken solder issue. Another interesting thing, the components vary a little bit. Even with Fender, that was the case, so I can't say that's like a Plush thing. But these Japanese caps, I've only ever seen these factory in stuff from 68, 69, actually. But this one does look like a retrofit from that solder joint. I dare say we see some funny factory stuff here, but that is pretty inexcusable. This one, let's see. This one, the trim doesn't work, but other than the bug not rocking for us, it looks like the oscillator's not going, but is in pretty good shape. I'm going to run through, test the normal things, make sure the bias is good, check resistor values on the important ones, all that kind of stuff. I may or may not jump in and immediately recap these. They're very quiet, they operate well, so then, it's got a 3-prong already on it. I'm going to go ahead, something that I like to do on these amps, I'll pull the capacitor there, and then I like to update the wiring on the switch, so either way that you have it, it's correct, instead of having it actually continue to change the polarity. But very cool unit. Someone has changed out the indicator light, and there's that Clark music. So I think I've decided that this one is going to be named Clark Kent, and this one is Batman. But anyway, yeah, the reverb pan's mounted here. This one, while the trem works and it sounds every bit as good, this one, when I get a little closer, it's kind of hard to see, but that grid blocker is burnt up. It's still got continuity. I mean, the resistance is high. All of the resistance on these are kind of goofy, but it works properly. So who knows when that burnt up or why. And apparently it was upside down. It got rained on. God only knows. But at any rate, they're so darn original. Half the point of me babbling through this video is just to kind of show the original layout and assembly. Obviously the three prongers are updated. I think that somebody has added these leads, and originally they had gone through. Where is it? You can just barely see it there, but that little hole that comes through the back of the unit. So anyway, and this one actually has a serial. I've never seen a serial on the inside or the outside of one of these plushes before. So kind of cool. The transformers are also mounted in Fender style, so it's very, very Fendery. I haven't gone through the schematic itself, and this one also has those slave and recording outs, and that these ones are an extra tube. It's a transistor in the earth. But at any rate, very Fendery, very Fender copy-ish. I would assume these are going to be quieter for a couple reasons than the earth version, which I guess we'll go ahead and jump over to. But the transformers are laid just like a twin, which is pretty nice. Leo had figured out his layout, right? So on this guy, which I've done a bunch of work to this one. This one's going to be the one that I use for a band. Notice the transformers are all pointed in line with each other. I don't know the impact. It's like best practice with layout to have them not lined up like this, and I'm not an expert. I'm not going to go through it. You can find good posts describing it, but what I might try to do, it's effort impact. I may take the output transformer and maybe even the choke loose and rotate them and see what that impact is on noise. A lot of the work that I've done to this unit has been in an attempt to quiet it down. But yeah, very, very different construction style. The heaters are sort of twisted, but they're kind of laid down there. I don't really know if that's worse or better. I mean, there's a lot of noise in this amp, so at some point I may pull those loose and do them, raised Fender style. But at the time, I couldn't find a multi-section cap that had 4 20s. So I went with F&Ts and put in terminal strips. But you can get a Mojo tone that does now. So I kind of feel bad that I went ahead and modified the layout. But I've seen different ways that people have done this, and I feel like this, and then I'll put some aluminum tape over that little porthole there, is keeping the electrical as far as you can away from stuff. And I've updated that switch and the 3-prong and everything here too. I'm sure people will say, oh, the ground should be longer. You're probably right. This one is definitely a 73. Every earth that I've found has been a 73. All the components that I have changed are in the same layout, the same spot. But if nothing else, the build style on these terminal strips is more of a pain to maintain. This one originally was in extremely bad shape. The convenience outlet, which I've made this in negative feedback, if you see that there. But this one, the convenience outlet was falling around in it, and there's a couple spots where it had shorted. Somebody had removed the original fuse holder, broken it out, taken the 2 wires and just twisted them together. That was smart. You can see that burn spot. Yeah, there was a resistor there. It was not functional when I got it. This resistor here had completely burnt up. It had damaged the shielded cable here for, I think this goes to either the speed or intensity. Yeah, the speed pot there. So this one has had a lot to resurrect it. At this point, everything works, just the trim is weak and still a little noisy. It's not bad. It's one of those things where, anybody in a in a brewery audience seeing a free band of, dudes who do it for fun isn't going to notice the difference with the hum, but I do. So the next thing I'm going to do here is cleaning up a whole bunch of grounds and, just ensuring all the basics are super well taken care of, and like I say, might mess with the transformers. But anyway, like I say, half the point of this is just to get a whole bunch of video of layouts and stuff out there, so if somebody else is working on one, it's a nice reference. I know the G-2000 man has a pretty good video on these. And then this guy, the base version, I haven't looked at the schematic on. Well, I have the schematic for this. I haven't compared it to a base man. My understanding is it is somewhat like a non-master volume baseman 100. So I'm probably going to do a circuit analysis and sit down and do a long, boring video for nerds like me of that at some point. But this one started doing some self-oscillating-y, motor boating-y, blech. So based on the age and those caps date 73, there's a few other components in here you can, pull dates from as well. But at any rate, I feel like this one's due for a resistor value check and a cap job. So this one is that much less disorderly in here and runs nice and quietly. It operates well already, with the exception of it started motorboating the other day. So, a nice unit overall. Somebody had put in a nice match set of, I think these are Sovtex. Yeah, pre-Ukraine hardware, huh? Before I got it. So this one, just the condition of the Tolex especially, this was a fairly well treated amp through its life. So glad to have it, but bass player's got to have something bigger than that Lafayette when he comes over. So toys.